Okay, so hi, my name is Devin Hopkins. I'm a senior at App. I'm about to go to my placement in the spring with the Senior Resources of Guilford, and this is my final reflection for Social Work 4020. So to start, my initial impression of macro practice, I talked about this a little bit when we first started the semester, so long ago. But so when I first decided to pursue social work, I thought I saw myself as a macro social worker. But in my head, I think that was just because I didn't really understand what social work was, and that was the more like I just knew like people in macro social work made more money, I think, and it seemed more like a businessy thing. Um, but then as I got into social work, I became more focused on direct practice just through the program. And I started to learn more about social work and I fell in love with what social work is. But I kind of forgot about macro practice. And then every once in a while you talk about it in a class, and I just kind of viewed it as more paperwork oriented. And I thought it lacked the personal connection. I didn't think you really got to work with anybody out in the community or have clients or anything like that. And of course, now I see how with macro social work, you're able to work with, I mean, so many communities all at once. And not only just you get to work with so many people in your community, you also get to work together with different people in your agency, or partner with other agencies and learn from people who work in a different setting than you. And it's just an amazing thing that I've learned through this class, I think. So the fit between me and macro practice, like I said, once I kind of got into the social work program more, I didn't really have an interest in macro work. I really liked the idea of having direct contact between a client, being able to be one-on-one with someone and like go with them through the steps. But now that I've gone through this class and I've seen the different avenues of macro work, I think that before too, my idea of macro social work was that it was a jump from either you worked one-on-one with one client or you either were trying to change laws of the entire country. And that just seemed like too big of a jump to me, and it seemed too broad and unattainable. But now I could definitely see myself working in macro social work. I still think that it's important that I pursue direct practice for a while and really get that foundation and core learning done in the field. But I would love to work in macro social work at the community level, working for as the director of an agency, or I could even see myself, I've always had an interest in politics, so I could see myself enjoying lobbying or grant writing. I think that would be really fun. And going back to initially, I think I viewed macro practice as just like having to cut through red tape all the time and never really being able to accomplish anything. And that's definitely changed now. So reactions to the class readings, I think they did a couple of things. One, they provided me a clearer view of what macro social work is. So if we get out of this PowerPoint for a second, I just wanted to share one of the articles that really stayed with me, and it's why macro practice matters. I actually saved it to my computer. And one of just what really sticks with me is when they say macro social workers play an essential role in transforming private troubles into public issues. That just was it was such a pivotal moment for me when I read that, because I realized, and you have said it a lot, Crystal, through our meetings and stuff, how you meet so many people. I know you said that you keep coming to you with the same problems over and over again, and you can't help, or you have to help them one at a time. And when there's really everyone is experiencing the same issue, you should address the issue. And that's the essence of macro social work. So then the other thing that it did was gave real world examples of being a macro social worker. Another issue before this class was that I just didn't have an idea of what macro social work looked like. I didn't have a face to it, and now I understand that being a macro social worker, you can be the head of an agency, you can be a grant writer, all those those things, titles that I mentioned earlier, are all, I never realized that was what macro social work was. Also, it gave examples of how it would benefit me, which is not it's not usual for social work classes. It's always how you help others in social work, which is great. I love that. But this class, it does give you the opportunity. I remember one of the articles we read talked about how there's a need for social work majors to really pursue macro work, because in agencies, they're not getting to be the heads of the agencies or be in those leadership CEO roles because they don't pursue it and get that foundation of social work to be able to run something at that level. So then people who don't have the background of social work are running these businesses or agencies or organizations. And so it's just an opportunity to get more social workers in there, an opportunity to make more money. And it's just a whole different world that I've been opened up to of job avenues and just life careers that you can go into through these articles that we've read throughout the semester, and also show me what I've been missing in social work training. I love this program. It's been the absolute dream to be in social work and to do that in college, but I definitely feel like I wish that we had talked just as much about macro at social work as we have been doing direct practice, and I had just as clear of an idea of macro practice as I do direct. I remember one of the articles we read too talked about how a lot of programs in colleges throughout the country really lack a macro component. So code of ethics, the part where the broader society, I think really what spoke to me the most is how social work really encompasses who you are as a person and a professional. So I can't be an advocate for equality and human rights and basic human needs as a professional and then in my personal life not, and think that that's not something that really needs to be advocated for. You have to be a social worker when you're at home or when you're at the grocery store and see an injustice being done. You have to be the person who speaks up no matter what. You never take off the hat of being a social worker. And that's just, I think that's something we all have to always remember that. And I think it's not just social workers. I think everybody just as a human should be this, but as social workers, it's our duty. And then the other thing is just being politically active, I think is so relevant to today. I mean, I know that the past 4 years, I've read the Code of Ethics over and over again, and you see the politically active, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm politically active, of course. But now, in light of recent events, I mean, being politically active is standing up when your parents say something that, you're like, no, that might be a little racist. Let's look at why, and, why we think that, and let's talk about it. That's something that's really hard. I mean, it's been hard for me. I know it's been hard for other people, but that's really what being a social worker is not attacking, but being willing to have conversations and having those conversations with your family and then your friend circle, and having it just reverberate out more into the macro aspect of where your community is being more engaged and having conversations and creating change. And that's why I do think after reading the broader society part of the Code of Ethics, it isn't a lifelong embodiment of the profession. I think when you commit to being a social worker, you commit to being an advocate for your life, even after retirement. It's just being someone who can be relied on to speak out and to always be there for support. So lastly, I just want to leave with the core mission of social work is to just help people have their basic human needs met. I don't know why that's turned into a political thing. I think that's just an amazing basic need that, you should have automatically, but I guess not. So that's why social work exists. Just the idea of having a basic human needs met in a country full of millions of people, you cannot go one by one and to help people individually. if we really want to make the world a better place and make sure that people are getting what they need, you have to have macro practice. It's essential to social work and to the betterment of our country. You have to be able to reach thousands of people at one time. It's never gonna create change if we go one by one. So yeah, that's kind of what I've gleaned from this semester, from this class. I've been really thankful to have the opportunity to expand, especially right before I start to make big decisions, to kind of open my mind back up and look really at the broad scope of what's available to me and how I can be of service when I start social work. So thank you.